2 women, 60 days, no makeup, no shaving, and no primping. We talk about the Naked Face Project this week on A Healthier Charlotte. Thanks for joining us this week on the episode of A Healthier Charlotte. I'm your host, Bobby DeMuro. 2 women started a bit of a personal challenge at the start of February to see if they could go 60 days without makeup, shaving, or primping in any way. And since then, the Naked Face Project, as it's been known, has been around the world and back and been the catalyst for many a discussion on body image disorder, sexuality, beauty, and culture. Today on A Healthier Charlotte, we'll take a look at this Naked Face Project and what messages they're hoping to send to young people about beauty, expectations, and society. Joining me to discuss the project and the greater issue of body image this week are 3 great guests, and let's meet our panel today. First, at the far end of the table, Molly Barker, who's been on our show before, and she is one of the creators of Naked Face Project. Next to her is Kelly Finley, a faculty member at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte, focusing on women's and gender studies. And finally, next to me is Dr. Amy Combs, a licensed psychologist from the Charlotte Center for Balanced Living. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's talk about this, Molly. I obviously want to start with you. And I'm going to give you the first question you probably get from everybody. Yeah. You did what for 60 days?
So we are in the middle, 44 days in.
That's true.
No makeup, no primping, basically I'm living like I'm on an outward bound excursion. So I have shampoo, brush, and soap. And some body lotion. That's basically
and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what is you guys made a conscientious effort, it seems like, to stay away from the politics, to stay away from the business of beauty and all that sort of stuff. And it's just about, I don't want to say it's not necessarily pro-feminist, it's not necessarily anything like that, it's just living authentically and intentionally. Talk about that aspect of it. What's the psychology behind doing this?
Well, first of all, yes, it's really a personal journey, and it's an invitation to people who just kind of want to lean into these beauty habits and maybe why we do them, the intention. But it originated because of the work that I do with young girls. We have a lesson that's based on media literacy. And inevitably, whenever we're doing that lesson on airbrushing and all the images the girls see, some little 8-year-old will say, well, Molly, if you tell me that I'm beautiful the way I am, just the way I am, then why do you wear makeup or why do you color your hair? And the truth is, I didn't really have an answer for her.
Do you think people who have seen this and maybe people who have done this with you understand that aspect of it and the living, walking what you talk, essentially?
Well, yeah, we're getting all sorts of various reactions to this. I mean, truthfully, some people are like sensationalizing it. You've done what for 60 days? Others are really getting it. Some people are even frightened by it a little bit, and I completely understand that. If this question had been asked of me in my 20s, I'm not sure, first of all, I would have cared, nor would I have been able to do it. I don't think I could have done it. So, we're getting varying reactions.
Dr. Combs, let's look at the clinical perspective of this, because it's one of the big issues behind this is body image disorder. What is it? I mean, does the average person have body image disorder in some way?
I think what you would say is that the average person has body image dissatisfaction. If you look at the numbers, by the age of 10, 54% of girls aren't happy with their bodies. And by the time they're 17, it jumps to 78, and then it kind of stays there. Roughly 80% of women would say there's something they don't like. And so that would be body image dissatisfaction. But body image disorder is more serious than that. That would be when someone really, really just doesn't accept or like their body. And when they look in the mirror, they don't see what we see. Like, they look in the mirror, and it's almost like a funhouse mirror.
Yeah.
What they see is so different, and it's different in a negative way, such that it can impact what they do on a day-to-day basis, the activities that they'll choose. They may not want to go to the beach. They may not want to be in a gym class. So it becomes a disorder in that it is disabling.
Now, I noticed you mentioned statistics with women and young girls. Mm-hmm. You were working specifically with young girls. Is this just a women's problem? I mean, we have 3 women on the panel to talk about this. Kelly, do men see this too, or is this specifically a women's problem that they're worried about how they come across to other people?
No, it is not gender specific, but there certainly is a disproportion of women, especially when you think about it not necessarily on a personal front, but on a professional experience, who feel a larger pressure. But believe it or not, men have even filed sex discrimination lawsuits about their appearance. Hair seems to be the most important, in the workplace, and feeling discriminated against that. So absolutely. You see men and boys who negotiate these issues, but nowhere near on the magnitude that women and girls do.
What is it? I mean, I don't want to say what is it about women, like there's something wrong, but I guess to open this up to all three of you, is it just a different expectation for women in society that they should be pretty and beautiful and done up and all this sort of stuff? I mean, is it that simple?
You know what? I'm still in the middle of all this, frankly. You know,
Yeah.
I'm still unraveling from, you know, and I can speak personally about this experience. I mean, the irony is, I thought I'd untangled from a lot of that, right? You know, but I'm over 50 now, and I've discovered that much of the negative talk that emerged in this process was around aging. So it isn't necessarily just around our bodies, it's around the notion of aging and becoming invisible or not having my voice heard or something that goes along with this, you know, unrealistic expectation around aging. So I do think, I don't even remember what your question was. I mean, that's how entangled I am
Yeah.
in this whole process. It's been quite
Well,
revealing.
regarding aging, then, to follow that up, do you think that this is more applicable for older women, or do 20-year-olds, would they get as much value out of doing something like
No, I
this?
think it's across the board.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What about, so who's to blame? I mean, I know that's a big question, but if we can pick people, you mentioned media literacy. Are there media outlets? Are there, you know, photoshopping celebrities? Are there specific things that we can point at that are causing people to want to do stuff like this and want to back away from this?
I think there's certainly the media, although we tend to point our fingers and at the same time secretly consume it all the time.
Yeah.
But there's also the professional pressure, and you know, the media. It's a give and take. It's a two-way street, and so there's a lot of women who across the age range, and also we have to bring in other expressions of appearance across race, across occupation, who feel a huge pressure, if not an absolute mandate, professional mandate, that they have to look a certain way. So we need to look at corporate America, we need to look at media, we need to look at court cases that justify, you know, discrimination based on appearance. So it goes across, it cuts a wide swath, and I don't want to just pick on the media.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It's not quite that simple to pick on the media. Dr. Combs, when we look at body image and dissatisfaction and disorder, at what point does it cross that line? Can you pinpoint something that says this is now a disorder, or is it different for every person?
Well, I think it can be different across people. Just to jump back, one thing I wanted to mention is that I think the body image dissatisfaction comes from a feeling of being different. And that can be at school, that can even be in your family. You can have a sibling who looks different from the rest of their family, and that's where body image dissatisfaction starts. So I think it can be much more internal and even sort of grassroots than even the media. It can happen in your immediate surroundings as well. But when it crosses over and starts to become a disorder, it's when you start not to do the things that would make your life better, make your life fuller. And you're avoiding those things or those people or those challenges because you're somehow not feeling good enough. And it's based on how you look or how you think that you look. And so your life is becoming smaller because you're not willing to put yourself out there.
What's the treatment? I mean, you can't probably take a pill for it, I would guess.
No, not really.
I mean, is it psychological treatment? Is it, the reason, and I'll ask a different question about this, but we did an episode on eating disorders recently.
Sure,
Is it something similar to that? Is it a psychological self-esteem issue?
Sure. You know, I think in its most simple terms, it is. But I think it can also be a situation where people have had experiences that may put them in a box, and they haven't had maybe an advocate or a mentor who would help them realize their full potential. So I think to say it's a self-esteem issue also kind of blames the individual.
Yeah.
So I think that's important because that in and of itself can be a label. But I think the treatment is helping someone start to see that they are so much more than their appearance, and that they have other things that they have the capability of doing that may bolster their sense of themselves in the world, so that they're not just a body walking down the street, but they're a person who has this friend and this occupation and this talent and this, you know, life plan for themselves. So they see themselves more holistically. That, to me, is the treatment.
And Molly, I know you didn't start out to make a psychological revolution, but that description sounds exactly like everything that you're about. I mean, is that right to say that that's kind of what you're going for?
I'm laughing through this experience because you think something as simple as this question, you know, why do you wear makeup, should not matter. But it matters to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And what I'm discovering is growing up in the 60s and 70s here in the South, being pretty mattered. And being prettier than someone or being prettier less than someone was a very difficult place when you're in middle school. And, you know, I work with young girls and I hear it and I see it. And so part of what's revealed itself to me is not only the body issue or whatever it is this culture of judging, you know, of judging each other in a way to somehow better ourselves. And so, you know, what's revealing in me is that as enlightened or as, you know, wonderful as I can be with the work that I do, I still have a little bit of that in me. And so I'm looking forward to releasing that.
You mentioned judging, and we've done stuff on bullying and school violence before, and these aren't necessarily similar, but in one case, you can make the argument that bullying, to some extent, has always happened. I guess you could say the same thing about judging. We will always judge each other at some level, especially as kids. I mean, is that true? Will we ever get to the point where kids don't say that they're prettier than somebody or not as pretty as somebody, or is there always going to be some of that going on?
Well, you know what, another thing that has revealed itself, I mean, this has been like a fascinating, using myself as my own project, is, yeah, no, I'm not sure that we ever will be, but as an adult and my responsibility to the world, what can I do to have a change in that realm? And judging that person is not going to help them, but creating a culture and a space where kids can talk about being vulnerable or being afraid or feeling less than or whatever, that is how you get to it. So, you know, it's about creating a space where people can fully express themselves.
And you know something about, you'll be in the bullying documentary, I guess.
Oh, yeah, coming up.
There you
yeah.
go. Well, Kelly, I want to look at some of the criticisms that I was thinking about when I looked at Naked Face Project. One of the things that I thought about, and I saw somebody mention it on a news article or something you guys were in, was, you know, if you don't want to wear makeup, don't wear makeup. Big deal. Don't do a project for it. Is it that simple? I mean, it's something you just opt out of, or is there so much more to it that it's not easy enough to just say, don't like it, don't do it?
It's most certainly it's not that simple. You know, Molly is amazing with and without makeup, and she's cultivated an amazing life of accomplishments and a privilege to be able to go about her day-to-day life without wearing makeup. But there are many people out there who don't. Their jobs require it. Their hair texture, you know, we sit here and we think about not doing our hair. But there are women and girls out there who feel like their natural hair texture, that they're going to be penalized for it. So it's a privilege to say that it's a frivolous issue. It absolutely is not a frivolous issue, no.
I mean, it's difficult to measure maybe the effect this has on young women. But Dr. Combs, when you see not just young women, but young people who are affected by this or just affected by the things that you deal with when you're a teenager in general, what are the consequences? I mean, where do these kids, do they struggle going forward? Do they struggle when they become adults because of things they deal with now? Or do they all kind of leave it behind as they grow up?
Well, I think whether or not they're able to overcome and move forward and leave it behind depends on the experiences that they have, you know, as they're working through it.
Yeah.
I think having a mentor, having adults who take a positive, you know, interest in you can help someone move through it, help someone recognize the strengths I was talking about before. But, you know, I tell my clients all the time, you couldn't pay me to go back to high school or middle school. You just couldn't pay me enough, you know. But, you know, it's about trying to, you know, find your hidden gems.
Yeah.
And so, but, I mean, it's a big deal not to wear makeup in the 6th grade these days. You know, it just starts.
When do kids start wearing makeup? When do women start wearing? Is it 4th grade, 5th grade?
I would say
Depends on their mom and
Yeah.
their parents. Yeah, absolutely.
What about, we have about a minute left, and it just hit me to talk about this because I'm obsessed with reality television. What about this toddlers and tiaras? I mean, we could talk about that all day.
Oh, yes, we
can. But what about on this issue? You've got, 7-year-olds completely done up. Does that have an effect on people when they see something like that?
Oh, yes.
Sure.
Yeah, it normalizes it.
Yeah.
And again, if you're 27 and you want to wear it because you're going out and it's a special event, then that's your choice. But there's no freedom in have to. And these girls feel like they have to do this to, make their parents proud, whatever. So it's sending so many messages. Yeah. We could do a whole show. You're right.
We could. We actually should do a reality television show. Well, stick with us, guys. We're going to have one more thing after the break with them. But first up, Kelly Davis from Foodie Fresh talks nutrition and simple meals and cooking at home. That's next right here on A Healthier Charlotte.
Hi, I'm Kelly from Foodie Fresh, and I often find myself running late for work a good bit, so I always keep some things on hand to make that a little bit easier on me. I don't like to skip breakfast, so these are the things that I keep on hand to make it quick and easy for me to whip something together to take to work, eat in the car, eat when I get to work. So the first thing that I might do if I was running late for work is make a smoothie. And to make a smoothie, I usually keep some almond milk on hand. It lasts a lot longer than regular milk, so it's going to be there when you need it. And I'll combine that with some frozen fruit, maybe a frozen banana as well. And for some staying power, I'll add some powdered protein, whey protein, because fruit and milk aren't going to keep you full. I might also add some peanut butter or almond butter as well for some healthy fats. The next thing I might do, if I'm not in the mood for a smoothie, is to make an egg sandwich if you're more of a savory person when you want breakfast. And you can make an egg really, really quickly if you have a ramekin on hand. These are pretty cheap. You can get these at the grocery store, actually. And I'll use cooking spray or some oil from a misto. I like oil in a misto better than cooking spray because cooking spray has some funky stuff in it, and oil is exactly what it says it is. So I'll spray some of that into a ramekin, pop an egg in there, throw a paper towel over it, put it in the microwave for 30 to 40 seconds, depending on the strength of your microwave. You might want to test that out before you try it. You don't want an egg exploding in your microwave. That's happened to me a few times. And I'll throw that on 2 pieces of bread with a piece of cheese, maybe a little bit of spinach or tomato. I can eat that in the car when I get to work or maybe quickly before I leave. The thing that I do probably more often than not, though, is I always have some yogurt on hand, and I will put yogurt in a bowl with some frozen fruit that I've already heated up, because I don't like frozen fruit so much in my yogurt because I have some sensitive gums and I like it to be heated up nice and warm. And I'll put frozen fruit, yogurt together, and I'll either put some healthy cereal on top, like cereal that's made with whole grains, doesn't have a lot of sugar in it, less than 5 grams of sugar usually. Or I will put some straight raw oats on top of my yogurt and fruit, and then I'll put some nuts or almond butter, peanut butter for some healthy fats to keep me full. And then the very last thing that I might do is make a quick sandwich with peanut butter and jelly on 2 pieces of bread, or peanut butter and banana on 2 pieces of bread. I can eat that in the car. I can eat it when I get to work. It's quick and easy and doesn't take a lot of time, but I'll have a good breakfast and it will keep me full until noon when I will take my lunch. So that's all you really need to keep on hand, based on your preferences, what you like. If you want to keep full till lunch, make sure you have a healthy breakfast on hand. It doesn't take a lot of time. Simple as that.
Welcome back into A Healthier Charlotte and our discussion on body image dissatisfaction, and the Naked Face Project. And ladies, I want to talk about something that I love. We were joking about this off camera, but I love classic Hollywood, old movies, and that sort of stuff. 2 of my favorite actresses are Betty Grable and Jean Tierney, who, for people who don't have a frame of reference, they were, classic pinup girls of the 40s and the 50s. And I mention this not only because I would have had a huge crush on them had I been alive then, but I look at how much culture has changed in the last decades and the last years, and at the time when Betty Grable was a pinup in 1943, that was considered scandalous and kind of risky, and we look at that now and it's incredibly moderate, and we don't see what the big deal is, and she's barely showing any skin. Talk about that evolution. I mean, is the kids that we see now, the Jersey Shore kids who barely wear anything, the more that happens, you mentioned on the first segment, does that just keep normalizing, and in 20 years, this now looks moderate and will be even crazier?
Well, I was telling Molly before that there's actually a history to the Naked Face Project, and it isn't a frivolous one. And makeup went from being completely socially taboo in the 1800s to being a site of emancipation for women in the 1920s when they got the right to vote. In the 1960s, we refused to wear our makeup and threw it away. And then in the 1980s, it became about individual expression. But then what happened was a slew of court cases where instead of being about individual expression and choice, it started to become not just a requirement of femininity and aging femininity, but a requirement of professional success and now social success. And the media absolutely serves to validate that. Yeah.
So it sounds like we sort of kind of ebb and flow, where we have periods of lots of makeup, no makeup, and beauty changes. Maybe, Molly, this will start out a period of no makeup and you'll be a trendsetter.
You know what? I'm not sure that will happen. What I do know is what you just said was this ebb and flow.
Yeah.
So what I'm seeing as somebody that is really trying to create cultural and systemic change is to honor the ebb and flow and to sort of realize that every woman has this ebb and flow with it, and there really isn't necessarily a right or a wrong way to be. And I have to honor her for that. So what I did in my 20s is certainly not something I would do now.
Yeah.
But I still have to accept what I did and love what I did and love the woman that I was. Do you see what I'm saying?
And it's not necessarily bad to wear makeup, but if you're going to do it, understand what it is behind it.
Yeah, exactly. And that we're going to have this love affair with it or not, you know, and that all of it's okay, really.
What about the celebrity culture? Because we can get back to reality television, but it seems like everyone is on TV and whatever. And now that you have social media, everyone becomes maybe their own celebrity in a way. Does that play into this, that young women feel like they need to be on all the time and they need to be looking their best all the time? I mean, is that part of this?
Well, sure. You never know what's going to pop up on Facebook.
Yeah.
The imaginary audience syndrome. It's a real hallmark, as Amy, I'm sure, deals with a lot of being an adolescent female. But now our media actually validates this, you know, neurotic state of mind, and it continues on into adulthood. So you really do feel like at any moment the paparazzi is going to pop up out of the, you know, bushes, but it's just going to be your friends with their cell phones.
That's a scary thought to me. And I don't even wear any makeup. Molly, would you do this again? I mean, after the 60 days is up, will you keep doing this, or will you do this periodically? Is this something
You
you'll
know
repeat?
what? I think I was laughing with Caitlin. I may do this periodically because it's a real good gut check.
Yeah.
Like on where I am in my own love of self. And it's been really fascinating, you know. So the first 2 weeks, but Caitlin and I both had to kind of get over this hump of, you know, looking in the mirror literally and not knowing if that was my face or not. You know, that's funny. Like, I've been with this face for 51 years, and it took me a couple weeks to get to know my face again. And I didn't even wear that much.
Yeah.
It was all perception, you know.
Well, and I should mention Caitlin Boyle, who we've had on the show from
yeah.
Healthy Tipping Point, is the other woman doing this. Do you see the young women, the girls who kind of called you out on wearing makeup, have they adopted this? Will they adopt this? What do they think about it?
They could care less.
Yeah, now.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is that's what's so beautiful about an 8-year-old girl. You know, she's still unabashedly, completely comfortable with who she is. And so when she asks a question such as that, she has no idea how loaded it is.
Yeah.
And so that's why this whole project is just completely confirming the work that I do about that with girls, but also bringing adults to the child's world, because it is there, I believe, where we as adults can tap into our greatest potential, because kids just call it like it is.
Yeah. Well, and Dr. Combs, we look at, Molly and I have discussed childhood obesity before. And one of the things that we're both kind of mentioning is that there's a lot of talk about it, but there's maybe not as much work being done as there could be. Is that the same thing here? It seems like everybody's very concerned with body image and self-esteem and all these other issues. Is there too much talk and not enough work being done, or is there actual movements like the Naked Face Project going on? I mean, do you see a change coming?
I would like to think so. I think it's so subtle. I think it happens so early on that people don't even realize young children, girls and boys, are being affected by it until it's already seeped in.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to have to get really intentional about how we live and how we talk and the messages we send.
And it's difficult, like in childhood obesity, you could do a policy or an initiative specifically to create, you can't really do that maybe necessarily as much with personal body image, I would guess.
Sure, it'd be more about language.
Yeah.
More about experiences versus with childhood obesity, it's about behaviors and actions and activity.
Well, then, I guess with that, what level of this is on the parents? I mean, I don't want to say blame parents for creating this mess, but is there a certain responsibility parents need to take that they're not taking right now to stem some of the stuff that happens with young women?
I think conversations. I think just, even conversation around the dinner table about what did you do today? What did you talk about? What did you learn? Just those kind of conversations can engender this view of I am more than my appearance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been playing around with this theory. It's called the 4 degrees of why. And what I've discovered is, why do you wear makeup? Because I think it will make me prettier. Well, then why do you think it'll make you be prettier? Well, because that's what I saw in a magazine somewhere. Well, why? You just keep taking why and going deeper into it. It's a great conversation, and I've actually used it with my daughter in a number of things over the last 44 days. It's been fascinating.
And Kelly, last question for you. We got about a minute. I realize we've been talking about women and young women and stuff. What role do men play in this? I mean, I think if you talk to a lot of women my age, they would say, well, I want to look good for men and my boyfriends and whatever. What role do men play in body image, anything?
A great deal. Fathers with their daughters and sons play a great deal of importance. And also, you know, telling women, because you hear men often say who are attracted to women that I love you with or without it, and when it's a matter of choice for her.
Yeah.
And and that's what I tell my daughter. You wear it as a matter of choice, and you are beautiful with it and without it. And our men in our lives need to reflect that sentiment as well. And ironically, a lot of them do. I think women need to tune into that message a lot more too.
That's a good thing to end on. We're not doing so bad.
No, you're not.
Awesome. Fascinating stuff. Thank you guys for joining us today.
Thank you.
And that's all the time we've got this week on A Healthier Charlotte. Remember to visit ahealthiercharlotte.com for all your local health and wellness information here in Charlotte. And you can also find us on Facebook and Twitter there. And for our guests on the panel today and all of our crew on the floor, I want to thank you all for tuning in. I'm Bobby DeMuro, and this has been A Healthier Charlotte.